We feel that we ought to be doing all these things, which is where kind of chronic productivity comes in, that is where we have at some point learned that we gain respect and value by being productive and being everything to
And good.
everyone. And good and being a good girl. Yeah, and always being available, always being on hand to help out, being amenable. And so we do all the things. And like we're, approaching Christmas. We're both here in our red jumpers. And this is the classic time for women to impose a lot of this expectation on themselves,
Hmm. Hmm.
that we want everything to be magical for everybody. And perhaps we saw
Yes.
our mothers do this. And so
Hmm.
we we sort of have this list of things that we have to do in our mind, and we
Uh-huh.
don't even really consult, is this important to anyone, does anyone
Hmm.
care if I do this or not? We
Yeah.
just feel like it's our responsibility
Hmm.
to make this sort of perfect day for everybody.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, as mothers, we want our kids to have a magical time. And often, women that I'm speaking to in business, they might have a product business, and it's kind of the busiest time for work as well, and they're still layering on all these expectations. And actually, if you kind of break it down, we're doing it to ourselves,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is crazy.
Mm. It's hard that because there's so many layers to that. Um, so yeah, it sort of feels like you say, it feels like a responsibility and an expectation that we're imposing on ourselves. But we weren't born with that expectation on ourselves. So, and like, you were saying, it's hard to pinpoint where it came from. And that's because sometimes, our people pleasing or taking responsibility for everything or not feeling good enough, it doesn't come from one thing. It can come from like all the systems that we've had to navigate along the way,
Yeah.
the messages spoken or unspoken that we've received from, school, religion, even communities, parenting, the absence of stuff that taught us it was okay to disagree or to feel certain feelings and express ourselves. There's so many layers to it.
It's
And
like death by a thousand cuts, really.
yeah, and there's something though about trying to shift a little bit away from feeling like or acknowledging that we can get quite critical of ourselves if we feel like we're putting it on ourselves. Like, oh, why do I keep doing this even though I know that I want to slow down and be present this Christmas? Why do I keep stressing over Auntie Deirdre's present or something? There's something about, well, what might my body be remembering about, like, where's this come from? Rather than like, what's wrong with me that I keep doing this? What has taught me to have this expectation? Where's it come from? Like, just being a bit more curious as like,
Yeah.
what rules might I hold about what I should or shouldn't be doing this Christmas? And where did those rules come from? When or where might I have learnt them? And there might not be one thing, but just getting you thinking a bit more about, well, no wonder all these messages we receive from, the media about the perfect Christmas, the TV and the films, like, unless it's a soap opera, a TV and films all saying about this warmth and this magic that occurs at Christmas.
Cookery programs, terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be Nigella at Christmas because it's all happening. And even you could go back to our childhood, watching Delia Smith. It's all happening and it just feels effortless. And so you
Mm,
can internalize that and be like, well, it's effortless for Nigella. So
yeah.
why do I feel like I'm literally climbing a mountain in the
Yes.
snow, naked, dragging a boulder behind me? Like, why am I feeling so overwhelmed?
And would I want to impose that rule that I'm carrying on my children or someone I love? Because I suppose when we feel guilty or bad for not being able to fulfill something, some sort of expectation we might be holding on ourselves, or when we feel bad for not meeting someone else's needs or saying no to someone, that feeling like, that we feel awful and guilty, that guilt's telling us that not necessarily that we're doing something that's actually wrong, but that we're breaking a rule. And that can be quite helpful to notice and start getting curious about, what I'm noticing I feel guilty here. I must be breaking some rule. I wonder what rule it is. Like, yeah, where might that rule have come from? And is it one I would impose on someone I loved? And if not, um, what's the reason I wouldn't impose it? In what way is it not helping? And not necessarily getting rid of the rule. It don't mean like none of us wants to make an effort at Christmas, but just considering what might be a more realistic guideline that I could maybe practice living by. So rather than having to bake loads of desserts for Christmas, maybe I could buy one from the shop, and then I might be a bit more present at the
Yeah.
time when I need to be.